underway, broadcasting to you from our North Catholic studios in Cranberry Township. We bring you episode, 5 of our podcast on North Catholic Athletics. My name is Alex Brown.
And I'm Ryan Barrett.
And together we are your hosts for this podcast.
So first today we're going to be talking about the North Catholic volleyball team and their 2 wins to start off on a strong route to the season. Their first game was a 3-0 win over Pine Wilshire. They swept them, won all 3 sets. They won their first set 25-17, and then the next one went into extras 27-25, and then they won 25-17 to finish it out.
And that's a big win out of it. That's a big 3-0 win against a AAA team.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive. And then you look at the seniors played a pivotal role in these first 2 matches. You got Richard Kaminsky led the way with 15 points on the serve and adding
9 kills.
So that's a pretty good outing for him. You got junior Andrew Eubinger, who played the middle hitter, and he led the team with 10 kills.
And then junior, the libero, Aiden Ward, anchored the Trojan defense and had 15 digs.
So that's a very impressive win against a solid Pine Richland team, and best also up their weight class a little bit.
The next game was another sweep of rivals Central Catholic. It's always nice to beat them, and they absolutely crushed them in the first match, 25-7, and then in the second set it was 25-18, and the third set 25-20.
And this was a game for the seniors. You got Benjamin Sobel, who's the middle hitter, who had an excellent day serving with 14 points, and he added 2 kills from the middle for the Trojans.
And then senior hitter Dominic Rivetti had 4 kills for the Trojans as well.
And then the specialist in the back, Brandon Chance, had a great defensive performance, passing the ball with an excellent dig to secure the third set win and give the Trojans a 3-0 sweep for both games. So what a weekend for the Trojans, and they have another game on Monday.
7:30
at 7:30 against Seton LaSalle. We're recording this on Monday, so we don't know the ending of that game. But obviously, if they play the way like they've been doing, and getting, especially with the digs and the sets that they've been getting, and all around great performances in those first 2 games, and hopefully they can put together another remarkable performance against Seton LaSalle. And now let's transition to talk about the varsity softball and the varsity baseball teams for North, and they both suffered a loss since we last talked, Ryan.
Yep, the softball team had a 4-1 loss, and their only scoring was a solo home run in the second inning by Anna Zahorchek. And starting pitcher Leanna Moriali suffered the loss, but she pitched 7 innings.
7 innings.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but she had 6 strikeouts, a walk. But that's a pretty good performance for 7 innings. You want your starter to get some length out of her in those games. So she certainly did that, and she gave her team a chance to win, but they just could not put the bats together enough for that game.
And they have a game on Monday at 4 o'clock, so that game's actually going to be starting pretty soon as we mention this. So when you're hearing this, you'll know the result of that game, and that's their only game that we have right now here on the schedule this week. Actually, no, it looks like they play Wednesday. Yep, they play Wednesday also at 4 o'clock as well against Upper St. Clair. So they got a couple games this week to redeem themselves, hopefully get back on the winning streak. And talking about pitchers getting length, Alex, well, the boys baseball team lost 6-0 to South Fayette, but the South Fayette pitcher,
they had no chance.
Had 17 strikeouts and a no-hitter pitch, all innings in that game.
Tyler Pitzer, sophomore from South Fayette, D1 recruit for college for
only a
baseball. Sophomore. He pitched a no-hitter, unbelievable. Only 2 players made it on base on 2 separate walks for the Trojans. That was the great Tommy Caroli and Sean Dewey, both made it on base with walks. And so that was all the offense that there was for North in that game, as he was lights out from the mound. So you really, what more can you do? What more can you do?
When a pitcher gets on a roll, it's like impossible to get on base. But they also have some games coming up. Hopefully they can redeem themselves in the next couple of days.
But also he struck out 17 to 22 batters, Ryan. 17 to 22.
I mean, he walked 2, but he struck out 17. That's just amazing.
So
17 strikeouts.
Unbelievable. That's unprecedented.
That's a great way to start off the season for them. Hopefully North can rebound in their upcoming games.
What do they have coming up here?
Find when they play. It looks like their closest game got canceled. Yeah, the game got canceled this week. So we'll see. We'll see when their game comes up.
We're looking through the schedule right now. I don't see.
They might not have another game this week, Alex, but when they do have their next game, then let's see how they rebound, Alex.
Well, they play a game on what game is that? That day is I think they play Wednesday. They play Wednesday at 4 p.m. against Pine Richland.
Oh yes, that is. I must have skipped over that because it. Oh yeah, they do play Wednesday at 4 p.m. at Pine Richland. So Pine Richland's a good team also.
Pine Richland's a good team, yep.
Let's see if they can follow in the volleyball team's success against Pine Richland. So.
In recent years, the school's had success against Pine Richland in numerous
buzzer
sports.
Beater in basketball last year.
Ryan Fezco last year, and then, recent success against a big-time school in the area, and let's see if they can continue that.
And next up, let's talk about the North Catholic hockey team. And last week we were talking about possible playoff scenarios. Well, this week we're going to be talking about playoff preview. As they made this playoffs, they squeaked in as the 8th seed, and they'll play Indiana, who is an undefeated team and won their division this year handedly.
In Indiana, that's going to be a tough game to play. These games, I believe, are all going to be at neutral sites for these playoffs. But Indiana had a great year. They were 18-0, so it doesn't get any better than that. And they're going to give North a run for their money.
Yes, they will, Alex, and it's going to be a good game because North has played them one other time this year, and it was a close game. I think it was a 1-goal game. It was at Indiana.
This is different. It's different because you're not at Indiana. You're not taking that long ride down to Indiana. You're meeting in the middle somewhere. It's going to be a neutral site, so it's a lot different when you don't have to. I mean, you know this, Ryan. When you sit in a bus or you go on a car ride to a place, it's a lot tougher to get out and play than it is if you're just taking a 15, 20-minute car ride. Wouldn't you say that's the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely adds a perspective. I mean, if you're driving 15 minutes versus the other team coming in an hour, they're going to be a little tired getting off the car or getting out of the car or off the bus. And other seeds right now, I mean, it's not firmly set, but pretty much there's only two other seeds to determine. The second seed is either going to be Kiski or Freeport. And whoever gets that,
that's a big difference.
The other team will drop down to the 5th.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's the winner of each division, which is the top 4 seeds.
So
and then after that, it's at large bids, like record-wise bids, not division leading bids, as the first 4 are.
So if you win that game between Kiski and Freeport, you either play. If you win that game, you're the second seed.
Do they play each other?
You play Greensburg.
Is that what we're waiting on?
I don't know if they play each other, but whoever.
No, Freeport plays Fox Chapel. I guess that will determine because Kiski has no games left.
Yeah, if Freeport wins that game, then they get that second seed.
So right now, Kiski is in the first seed. But
second seed.
They're in they're second in the division. Kiski's is first in the division, in the Northeast Division. Freeport is second. So Freeport has 1 game left, and then they'll be tied both with a 15-3 record, and then I guess it goes down to tiebreakers.
And then obviously, I think Freeport has that tiebreaker over them.
If it's still a scenario, then
yes. And so the winner of that game, not the winner, but if let's say Freeport wins that game, this is a little confusing. Let's say Freeport wins that game against Fox Chapel, they would be the second seed overall of all those teams, and the winner of their own division. That would slot them in as the second seed out of the 8 teams that make the playoffs. They'd play Greensburg. If let's say that, then Kiski would have to play McDowell. So there'd be a 5-4 seed matchup.
But that wouldn't really hurt them either because
McDowell
is 6-11. But the reason they get that bid is because they won their division in a very, very poor division.
Yeah, but I don't think you could be upset with either where you're at.
And so the dates are not set for these games, but hopefully we'll be talking about a North Catholic hockey win in the future, Alex.
And that would be a big win over a dominant Indiana team, but you never know what can happen because this North team can be lethal at times.
Alex, pretty soon it's going to be polo season. You know what that means?
What does that mean, Ryan?
It is time to go to North Catholic Spirit Shop to get new polos for this May weather.
Already?
Yes, Alex. You can go there on www.northcatholicathletics.org to get polo t-shirts, Alex, and take a guess at what kind of brands we have.
I have no clue. I assume the best.
Yes, that's right, Alex. Under Armour and the new materials this year, so hopefully it'll be good for your spring weather.
And to be clear, that's at www.northcatholicathletics.org, correct, Ryan?
Yep.
Go and buy your spirit wear today. And now it is time for our interview during this podcast. So let's welcome in Mr. Summers, who is the orchestrator of of our North Catholic March Madness Challenge bracket. Mr. Summers, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it.
So, Mr. Summers, what's the layout looking right now for the tournament?
All right.
What's the leaderboard?
So it's a lot of fun each year for the mission trip fundraiser. What we do is we have a bracket challenge, and half of the proceeds will go to a winner, and then half of the proceeds will go to fund the mission trip. This year we don't have a mission trip because of COVID, but all the funds will be going towards next year.
Yeah, put it in the bank. Okay.
Yep. And so in previous years, we've actually been able to have like a watch party. So we had a goal of getting 200 brackets in previous years, and then in the cafeteria we'd have a watch party. But this year we couldn't do that. But we did with what we could. Don't worry, yeah, it's coming, guys. Don't worry, it's coming in the future. Where when we can meet again, we will have a watch party on the first day of the tournament, and whatnot. So this year, crazy year with the NCAA tournament. Crazy year with the bracket.
It is crazy.
I think we say this every year, right? We always say, like, oh, my gosh, I couldn't believe these auspices. But I feel like this year particularly, there's been a lot of people who we thought were going to win the tournament. Yep. And they lost, like, first round or second round or something like that. We were like, this team. But then, basically, this is my long, obnoxious way of saying – making excuses for myself because of how poorly my bracket
in the
is.
Sweet 16, it was the highest average seed ever in the Sweet. I think the average was around like 6 or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You look at half of these teams, and I'll talk about it in a second. But I do want to give a shout out to right now. So as we record, right, we have the Elite Eight, and the Elite Eight. Gonzaga, USC, Michigan, UCLA, Houston, Oregon State, Baylor, and Arkansas. Right, and so as we record right now, Emily Shikowski is on top with 610 points, and we use the ESPN version of our bracket challenge. But her max is 1410. Max is 1410. There are a couple people below her. Actually, there's only one person below her, Owen Schessler, who can get 1440. Now, Alex, I know you have a bracket that's doing pretty well. What do you need to happen?
I'm in sixth place. I need Owen Schessler. I think I need Owen Schessler's bracket. Houston has to lose.
Houston has to lose. So you need Baylor. You have Baylor as the winner.
State? I have Baylor as the winner overall. He also has Baylor as the winner. So I need something else to go wrong for him because we have the same final.
Yeah.
So Houston has to lose for me to have a chance because his max is going to go way down.
Would it be against Oregon State or in the final?
They're playing against Oregon State.
Okay, you'd have them to lose in the Elite Eight.
He has to. They have to lose.
Yeah, you want them to lose. Yeah.
With Oregon State's last game, they couldn't score anything.
Yeah,
I think
Houston
will get that
but
win.
they won the game though.
They won, but they couldn't score.
This is the first time ever in the history of the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament that there are two teams that are in double-digit seeds that are in that game. So
they almost had Oral Roberts also.
I know, but is this the new normal though? Is this what's going to happen?
So I've thought about this. This year I think it's a little different because of COVID's basically the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas they're playing all the games in Indiana, number one. It is a big deal whenever you get down to it. Whenever the Selection Sunday comes out, and they're like, these people are going to be in the West bracket. These people are going to be in the South and the Central, and because how teams travel can affect a game, right? How their fans get there can affect a game. And I think that is something that has changed outcomes of certain games where it's like, okay, now Ohio State isn't playing Oral Roberts in the middle of Columbus or the middle of Indiana where all Ohio State can come. Well, Oral Roberts isn't that far. I think they're in Oklahoma. But anyway, you're not playing the entire school. It's just 5 guys and 5 guys. It's like a schoolyard game. And most people who can play Division I basketball are of similar talent. Obviously, the bigger schools have bigger talents, but smaller schools make up with that with great team play, sound defense, good coaching, all of that stuff.
And so because the fans can't really make as much as differences in years past.
Right.
With the noise level in the stadium.
Right, exactly. And then on top of that, I would say you had this with Florida. Teams had no real routine this year, right? So Florida went into they had something like 9 games canceled throughout, and they went into the tournament without playing 9 of their games. It's what kind of you're coming from a schedule of usually Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was generally what a schedule would be for you playing basketball. Have a day off here and there. You go in and you don't play. I think they said they played 3 games in the last 40 days or something like that. That's tough. It's tough if you're not playing real competition.
Because a couple other teams like Kansas and I think Virginia were quarantined right before the tournament started, so they were like had like a 2 week straight without doing anything,
Right.
and they got right into Indiana, and they didn't have like any preparation until those couple practices.
And not to mention the tournament first, where we had what was it was VCU.
Yeah, VCU got knocked out.
Right, they got knocked out, and it was
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
They got DQ'd.
I saw the
Yeah.
score at the top when I was watching the games. It said it was
1-0. Was it like 2-0?
Oregon, yeah, it was 1-0.
Yeah,
It was just like
1-0.
1-0. It was like, and because VCU had somebody test positive and they were eliminated. Now the NCAA had a plan for that if somebody would have tested positive before the game started, right? Before the first game, they would have substituted a team. But once that first round started, then it was like no go, nobody can be substituted. But they did have substitute teams in place. But that didn't work out that way. But Oregon, they came out right off of, and they came out and won their first game. They upset, so
Iowa, yeah.
Yeah, they had
they
56 points in the first half.
Yeah, they
56.
came out, and so they weren't rusty at all. So it was just a
That
crazy-
kind of gave them an advantage because they weren't like tired from just playing a game. They
That
went
is-
right into the second round.
That
with a
also
break.
is fair. That is true. So it's been interesting. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. What was the most surprising team thus far for you guys?
Oral Roberts beating
Oral
Ohio
Roberts.
State.
Or Roberts, what did I say?
I was rooting for them last night against Arkansas. Alex
Yeah.
was like, "This is embarrassing, the NCAA that they've
I
gone
don't
so far."
I don't think that it's a good thing for the NCAA for this. I don't think the NCAA wants it per se,
Okay.
because if you had Ohio State,
Yeah.
let's say it was Ohio State, Florida instead of Oral Roberts, Florida.
Yes.
That's obviously not going to get as good of ratings for
Right.
the NCAA. And also, if you had Ohio State and they lose, and let's say that you had them in like the Final Four, like I did, and you have them there, does that not make you less interested in the rest of the tournament?
Yes, so I would agree with you in that point that in short terms, I would agree it hurts the tournament's championship, like people watch, viewership watching. But long term, though, think about the fact that Oral Roberts can lose or can beat an Ohio State.
It gets you a little
team,
more excited in
it
the
makes-
future.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the tournament, it's like, oh, that's what makes March Madness so great. It's like we're not just going. And no offense to the women's bracket, right? But the first round of the women's bracket,
Yeah.
the number one
You know who's
seed,
gonna win.
You know who's
the,
gonna
the,
win.
the top seeds
Yeah.
won all the games, and so it's
Dominated.
like But like we watched the first day of March Madness because it's like there's so
It's
many
fun.
games. Number one, but it's like okay, who's gonna win? Who's not gonna win? So I think there's long term and short term. I think there's both sides of that conversation.
I think the ratings might have gotten a boost from not being able to have fans there, but I think they
Yeah.
could have taken a hit because Kentucky and Duke weren't in it, and those are
That's
like
also
some of the biggest audience in like all of college basketball.
Yeah.
Those teams, but it's also I think people want to see Loyola play too because like especially because of Sister Jean.
Right,
like,
the
people wanna watch
following,
her
yeah.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Before we move on, I want to talk about them in just a second. Oral Roberts, did you see the last second shot that
Oh,
Oral Roberts?
I was watching
he,
that.
He shot it from the angle of the camera, and it just hit off the front of the rim.
It looked like it was going in.
Yeah,
for
and
the-
it's just like just not quite. It was crazy. That was a game where Oral Roberts had it down the stretch, and not that they lost it, but it was just a good game. Arkansas is actually an interesting team. Not to take a shot at your Baylor, I am really interested at Arkansas just because of they survived Colgate. So that was one of that early game. Colgate I think came out really big.
Yeah, they were down by like 14.
Yeah,
at that
14,
point.
and
Yeah.
then Arkansas so they've shown, and I don't remember what the Texas Tech. Well, I guess the
I think
score
they
was-
won by 2.
Oh, they won by 2. So
Texas,
Arkansas, yeah,
Texas Tech missed 2 layups in the last 30 seconds.
right, that's
I had
right.
Texas Tech in that game. He had
So-
Arkansas.
So Arkansas has shown a little bit of resiliency. I don't know if that means that they're just not that good and they've just kind of squeaked
Yeah.
by, or if they just know how to get it done in crunch time. But we'll see against Baylor. But Loyola Chicago, yeah, I think a lot of people wanted to pick that upset, and they were right when they beat Illinois because of the previous years.
But it's unbelievable because Illinois was so hot coming into that
I
tournament.
mean, they won.
I
They
know.
won the
Big
Big
Ten.
Ten, and they were so hot going in. The Big Ten really laid an egg this tournament.
Because
Really did.
I know. I like when I filled out a couple brackets, I started looking at it, and I was like, I have 3 Big Ten teams in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like because that's how good they were,
Yeah,
But
and
it's just,
now there's like one. I think there's one left.
yeah, and Illinois' coach, if you remember from years past, he was actually the coach of Stephen F. Austin, which they had pulled a
Yeah.
couple upsets in earlier brackets. So it's like, oh, he knows what he's doing in the tournament. But Loyola Chicago obviously knows. What are they? I can't remember what conference they are. Oh, the Missouri Valley Conference.
Yep.
The Arch Madness, as you will. They call it Arch Madness whenever they play their conference tournament. But yeah, I mean Loyola Chicago, and they couldn't pull it off against Oregon State. But that is just another interesting team to look at.
Another team I want to mention is that
Yeah.
Houston. They
Yeah.
have not played a single-digit team yet. They played Cleveland State, a 15 seed, the first round. Then they played Rutgers, a 10 seed. Then Syracuse, an 11 seed. And next they play Oregon State, a 12 seed in the Elite Eight. So they've got a kind of easy road to the Final Four
And
there.
it should be mentioned that Houston only beat Cleveland State by 1 point. Like we almost had a repeat.
1 point.
We almost had a repeat of the 2-15 fiasco that Ohio State did. But then then they beat Rutgers by 3, and they smashed Syracuse. But Syracuse was they were all running their Buddy Boeheim streak behind all that stuff that was going on. So Houston it looks like a volatile team, and obviously
Oregon State's hot.
I don't know if
Look out.
Houston can score enough to sustain a championship run because they have one of the best defenses in college basketball. But I don't know if they could score enough to beat the Baylors of the world.
Look, but they've won like 3 games. They've won 3 games.
Well, they
won the
played a
Pac-12.
single-digit seed yet.
They won the Pac-12 as a 7th seed. How can you say they can't score?
Well, their strength is the defense. I don't know if they were able to score enough to beat Baylor.
But they scored enough to beat Oregon in the Pac-12.
Do you think
Pac-12
do you think
championship.
they can beat Baylor?
Do I think they can beat Baylor? I don't think they can beat Baylor. I think
Okay,
they can
that's
beat
what I'm
Houston.
saying.
All I need them to do is beat Houston.
That's all
I need them to
He's
do.
a mercenary. He's after his own thing. But actually, I want to talk about the Pac-12. If you count at the Elite Eight level,
Yes.
there are 3 Pac-12 teams.
Unbelievable.
That is not something that usually happens.
No.
Usually, like the Pac-12 is like the forgotten conference. It's the forgotten Power 5. There's 3 of those. I think there's one Big Ten, which is Michigan still, which everyone thought would lose early because they lost one of their guards.
Yes.
And then you have Gonzaga. Often I forget what conference they are, but they're good. They're good in it every year. And then you have Houston, and then Baylor from the Big 12. So I mean, and the SEC with Arkansas. So it is an interesting, not what you're used to seeing. Usually you see those ACC teams, which I don't think I see one at all.
There's
Right?
none left.
And
They had a bad
They
year.
were 4-7 in the tournament.
Yeah. So usually you see those type of teams, the ACC, the Big Ten. You see those type of teams go far. Big 12 with Kansas, but this year it's a different makeup for sure.
I can't believe Syracuse, who lost to Pitt twice. They lost to Pitt twice, and they win 2 games against 2 pretty good teams.
Hey, that's coaching. That's coaching.
That
right
is
there.
coaching.
That's coaching, and a testament to when you get hot.
Yeah.
I think that's also there.
Buddy Boeheim was
He's
the
a great
reason for those
player.
wins.
Nobody's talking about UCLA. I
No.
feel like that's like like everyone's talking about Oral Roberts, they're talking about Oregon State.
And they had to win a playing game to get there.
Yeah, they won.
Yeah.
They beat Michigan State. Yeah, they beat Michigan State, and so they have actually the biggest winning streak going on. But they did have an easy game easy, whatever you want to call, against Abilene Christian. They had a 14 seed that they played, who beat Texas, which really screwed my bracket. But then they beat Alabama. Alabama would be the interesting. Did Alabama win the SEC tournament, the championship?
No, yes, they did. They beat LSU.
They beat LSU. Oh, that's right. And LSU, they lost first round, right?
They beat St. Bonaventure.
Oh,
they
St.
beat-
Bonnie's,
they
and then they
lost
lost
second
in the-
round.
They gave
lost-
Michigan kind of scared there.
Yeah.
For some
Michigan
point
has
and a half, though.
been really, really solid compared to past years. Like, normally you think
Yeah.
the Michigan States, they're just going to filter out as it goes along. This is the one year that they've really been pretty solid. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But they've been pretty consistent throughout the entire season.
They have, and a lot of people thought that and they say that he's probably not coming back. I can't remember the name of the guard, but he's one of their double-digit scorers. He was out for the beginning of the tournament. They say he might have like a miracle chance to come back, but a lot of people counted Michigan out because they
Yeah, if they make it to the Final Four, he'll be back.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
Unless he has a pro career.
Yes.
But then the team that is impressing everybody is Gonzaga. I mean, like,
Yes.
Gonzaga's just they're going out and steamrolling.
If you had to pick right now, like your final, what would it be?
Right now, my final.
Yes.
Oh gosh, final. I'm gonna go Gonzaga versus Arkansas. That would be my sleeper final. That would be my sleeper final.
Is that your official final?
Oh, I mean, my final right
Let's
now
stick by
was
it?
like my original one. I think I put in was like gosh, was it Texas? I don't know. I can't remember. It was Texas and Baylor or something like that.
I want to agree with you on that because just for one reason,
you're agree with them on that?
I want to see Alex coming to school complaining about how Arkansas beat Baylor.
Arkansas stinks, though.
Well,
they're really not that good.
Or they're resilient.
Yeah, they've been tested this tournament.
But you could be correct. You could be 100%. We'll find out by the time this is out. We'll know.
By the time this is out, we'll see what happens. But also, I think that if Baylor loses to Arkansas, I will personally come in 2 weeks, because we're not going to have one next week, another episode next week. But in 2 weeks, I will personally come in on the air. The first thing I'll do, and I'll apologize to both Mr. Summers and Ryan Berry, and say that they were right. That's what I'll do.
Or did you have
Yes.
Baylor in your I guess you did have them winning.
He has Baylor
Yeah,
winning
you're
it
them
all.
winning.
I do have Baylor winning.
Tell me why you like Baylor to win it all.
Oh, well, I did this bracket just because I had this one that was stationary, and I did like 3 to 4 different leagues.
Sure.
And so I had that one. That one's not doing that. That one stunk.
Yeah.
It's done so bad.
He's
And so
only
I
did this bracket in one
Yes.
league.
And so
he
I
said
did.
it was his
This is
backup
the only.
plan.
This is the only bracket I did in any of the leagues that was different, really. And it was my contingency plan. So it was a lot of the opposites in like the first round of 64 and round 32, and I've gotten to a pretty decent place. And I thought Baylor might have been a team that could have gotten there if they would have beat Ohio State. And I think
Okay.
and I didn't. I wanted to have one that didn't have Gonzaga winning at all. I thought that Gonzaga would get there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's still safe. It's still not a bad pick.
I mean, with the craziness of this tournament, you could still have 3 1 seeds in the Final Four, which is like the opposite of what you've seen in the first couple rounds.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The 1 seeds have endured other than Illinois. That's a very good point. So it didn't bother you at all that Baylor got bounced by Oklahoma State, which everybody was like on Oklahoma State's bandwagon because of.
I did have Oklahoma
Cunningham.
State.
He had them in the Final Four.
I had them in the Final Four in one of mine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like a couple of mine, but I mean, I didn't do that in this one. I had Illinois in there, but that worked out the same way as it would have if I picked Oklahoma
Right.
State.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Baylor. Yeah. Baylor. I mean, they're a good team. They I think they have 1 loss on the year. Is that correct? Oh, 2 losses of the year.
2 losses.
losses.
One was to Gonzaga. No, they didn't play Gonzaga. I forget who the other.
Was it Kansas?
I forget who they lost.
I think they lost 1 to Kansas. I think they
Might have lost
definitely
1 to Kansas.
Lost 1 to Kansas, but yeah. So okay. So then if mine's Gonzaga, Arkansas. What you want? Gonzaga, Baylor? Is that what you have?
Gonzaga, Baylor. I'm gonna take Baylor.
And you can take Baylor.
And Ryan?
Oh, I will take. I'm gonna go ahead and just if I'm gonna stick Gonzaga, Arkansas, I'm gonna say Arkansas as the winner. I'm
Okay.
gonna say Arkansas to win it all.
If Arkansas gets there, they might as well win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think Gonzaga, not Arkansas, will win that game.
You have Arkansas in there though.
You're gonna do
Just because of you.
Arkansas, Oregon State, or you
Oh
don't
my
you don't
gosh.
believe in Oregon State or Houston? Actually, I don't know why I would, but
I like Houston, but I don't think they can score enough to beat Baylor or beat Arkansas.
or either one. Yeah, whoever comes from there. Nice.
But look out for this will be aired on Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday.
Yeah.
Look, Oregon State at this point is really, really hot,
They are.
and Houston's on the ropes. We'll see what happens.
I know. That's gonna be fun. If you had a 12 seed in the Final Four, what if we had
like
a
that
12 and
Loyola
an 11
one a
in
couple
the
years
Final-
ago?
You could 12 and an 11.
That would be something.
Was Loyola an 11 seed when they made it? That like 4 years ago, I think.
Gosh, they beat.
that sounds right.
So they beat Kansas State. Kansas State was the 8 seed.
So they had to be a 9.
No, not in the
no,
first
no.
round. That
Kansas
was
State
in
was
the-
Kansas State beat.
That was in the Elite Eight, right?
That was the Elite Eight that they played Kansas State. So I can't remember.
Oh, the Elite
I
Eight,
think they
played
were the
Kansas
11
State.
because they lost to Michigan in the Final Four. I think.
So
and
that
then
was the bracket. That was the bracket where UMBC beat the 1 seed.
Yep.
So they beat Virginia at
Yes,
the time.
yes.
Then Kansas State took care of UMBC. And so I think they were the 13 seed. If I'm correct, I think that Chicago Loyola was the 13 seed going in, a 13 or 14. So, but that was a crazy side of the bracket. That was a crazy side of the bracket. But
Well, Mr. Summers, this is great having you on. This is a great conversation. Hopefully the people enjoyed it, and hopefully we can have you on again, maybe to recap it all in 2 weeks.
Hey, if that's it, and then maybe we can have I'll give it to the check to whoever it is, right? Maybe it's you, Alex.
Could
Maybe I'll be handing you a check.
On air. We can do it on air. That'd be great. We'll see what happens.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, guys.
And you just heard from Mr. Summers in our interview talking about March Madness Bracket Challenge. And what an interview that was, Alex. That was a
It was
fun
great,
interview.
and we appreciate him giving us the time.
Yep, and there's basketball games coming up tonight and tomorrow, so we'll see how this goes. And then hopefully maybe we'll get him back on. You apologizing to him and us about Arkansas beating Baylor. We'll see, Alex.
But by the time the folks are listening to this, we're going to know the results of that Houston game, Houston and Arkansas game. I know the folks are rooting for me. The fans are listening to me.
Okay.
And they're rooting for me. They want Houston to lose.
It'll be a good game.
And they want
I think
Baylor
Houston
to win.
will beat Oregon
And they'll
State.
rejoice with me in 2 weeks. Well, we'll see what happens. Ryan, this was great to do this with you, and have a great break. We wish the rest of you on here a great break as well. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. For episode number 6 of the North Catholic Athletics Podcast, and we'll have a lot to talk about.
And remember, we are your one-stop podcast for everything North Catholic athletics.
Have a great Easter, everybody.